Hey, I'm Tom Feldmann with PlayCountryBlues.com, and in this video we are going to talk about playing note for note versus in the style of. Let's get into it. I'm Tom Feldmann, and this is Play Country Blues. So for those of you who may not be familiar with those two terms, playing note for note simply means that you're taking from the original recordings and trying to replicate those songs note for note. Whatever was played is what you're trying to play. In the style of is a looser interpretation upon the original recording. So you're still carrying forth the form, meaning the chord progression. You're still using some of the basic riffs and licks that are being played. However, you are not adhering to the original recording as sort of a classical piece of music that needs to be played a specific and precise way. These tend to be two different camps that get pitted against each other, and people have very, very strong opinions about either or. Now, for me, I've taught literally hundreds of songs, whether it's for Stefan Grossman's Guitar Workshop or Acoustic Guitar Magazine or Vintage Guitar Magazine or my own PlayCountryBlues.com. I have spent a lot of effort and time teaching this music as close to the original recordings as possible. I definitely find value in playing this music note for note because it has made me an extremely better guitar player. I've learned things that I would not have otherwise learned. It broadened my vocabulary, not only for this music, but just for the guitar in general. The way that this music is played allows you to communicate in a language that not only works in country blues or traditional blues, but it works in any modern music because, let's face it, almost all modern music is based on this groundwork. So, learning note for note made me a better guitar player. Without question, I won't even argue that fact. What I will argue is that being a note for note player requires the skill and the talent to be able to do that. You can't play note for note if you are not a good enough guitar player to play note for note. And that is not a put down against you and your guitar playing ability. You just may not be there yet. You can get there, but it takes a lot of work and years of effort. The effort that is involved in playing exactly like someone is so much greater than just knowing a little bit about how they played and then going forward. And to me, again, that's not a negative thing. You have to approach this with your goals in mind and in hand. What is your reason for wanting to learn the song? And I'm going to talk a little bit about that because I have different standards based on that answer. What is your reason for learning the song? Are you a hobbyist that just wants to learn the song that they thought was cool and they just want to play it and that's it? Check it off the list, so to speak, and go on to something next? To me, you don't need to learn it note for note if you're doing that. You can learn a version of it based on your skill level. And I would argue if you're a hobbyist and you're only playing a couple times a week, you probably don't have the skill set to play it note for note anyway. So learn a basic version of the song and play that basic version of the song. And after playing that basic version of the song for some time, then go back to the original recording because now you've got the building blocks to go a little bit deeper and do note for note if you choose to. Now, if you are a performer, my standards for you are so much higher. Well, why is that? And here's the reason. If you are going out in public and you are proclaiming that this song that I'm about to play is by said artist, that song should sound like the song by said artist. Can you imagine going to see a band and them saying, hey, this is Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix, and having it sound nothing like Purple Haze? Or someone going, hey, this is Layla by Eric Clapton, and it not sound like anything like Layla? Or, I mean, what band plays Hotel California or Brown Eyed Girl or any of those classic cover band songs, and they sound nothing like the song? And then the person would go, oh no, I'm just being authentic, and I'm just playing in the style of. That is a ridiculous thought, because the success of a cover band is solely determined upon their ability to play the song like it was recorded. And that's true across any genre. I don't know why with traditional blues this gets brought up so much, because look at people playing traditional bluegrass. Are they playing their adaptations, or they're playing in the style of, or are they staying true to the original versions? That doesn't mean that they're not carrying them forward and being inventive. You know, whether it's Molly Tuttle or Billy Strings or Bela Fleck, I mean, they're able to go off into outer space land with this stuff. However, when they're playing a traditional song, you know it's the traditional song. They're able to go somewhere else with it, but they keep the parameters out of respect for the song and out of respect for the audience, because they're going to say, hey, this is this song, this is how it goes. And again, whether it's country music or pop music or rock music, whatever it is, all of these people who are covering songs want the song to sound like the original version, because that's just the way that it is. That's sort of the rule that we as a society of music listeners sort of follow. And again, I cannot imagine a cover band going out to a gig, playing classic cover band songs, and then saying, we're just playing in the style of, none of these songs are going to sound like the songs that we say they're going to sound. So that is to my point here, that if you're saying that this is Death Letter Blues by Son House, please have it sound like Death Letter Blues. If you're saying this is a Robert Johnson song, please have it sound like the Robert Johnson song. That doesn't mean that you can't be inventive in that. That doesn't mean that you can't do a guitar break or break from the form and do something that's a little bit pushing it forward in a different direction. I do that all the time. But the song as a whole sounds like the original version. Well, why is that? Because as a performer, I said that that's what I was doing. I gave the audience a clear directive that this song is a Son House song. And to me, I have bore witness to this in traditional blues more than anything else. Is I've gone to see people play and they go, this song is X song by said musician. And the song sounds nothing like what they said. And to me, I'm going, well, that's not how the song goes. There's nothing near to what the song goes. And then now you just confused all these people, because they're going to go home and they're going to go, maybe they like the song and they're going to look it up and it's going to sound nothing the way that you played it. So this is tricky territory. How are you going to handle this? Does this mean that I think you need to play note for note in order to play this music in public? And the answer is no. There's no possible way to do that. There's no possible way to play note for note what somebody else played, simply because there's so many factors that go into what makes a note sound the way it does. Tone comes from more than just the string against the fretboard. Tone is more than the sound of the guitar. Tone is all about your hands. It's about your attitude. It's about the environment you're in. All of this stuff equates to the tone of the instrument. You know, is the person using a thumb and a finger? Are they using a flat pick? Are they using more than one finger? I mean, there's so many things that changes the sound of that note being played that you can never replicate, because we're all working with our strengths and our limitations, and we're all working within the environment that we're in. So you're never going to be playing it note for note. However, it should be pretty darn close to the original recording if you are performing the song in public and you have declared that this song I'm playing is by said artist. that has nothing to do with being authentic or not authentic. Like, here's an argument that I hear all the time, is that if someone plays just like Son House, or just like Robert Johnson, or just like Charley Patton, that tends to be a dig against their authenticity. They aren't creative enough to do their own thing, so they're playing just like them. And it's usually used as a put down. But my argument is, I know guys that brag about other guitarists that they see because they can play just like Jimi Hendrix. Or they'll say, man, the guitar player in this band, he plays Stevie Ray Vaughan just like Stevie Ray Vaughan, bragging about how awesome the guitarist is in said band because they can play just like so-and-so and such and such. However, when it comes to blues, it's used as a put down. And I don't understand that, because there should be no difference here. I know the reason why it is a put down, and I'm going to address that because I know I can hear the typings in the comments section about authenticity and these guys never played the same music twice and you don't get it, you don't understand, you're missing the point of what this music is and how it should be played. I know. I think I've been accused of being inauthentic more than anyone that I know. Since I first picked up the guitar in 17, I have heard over and over and over and over and over again how unauthentic I am and how I'm lacking this and lacking that and all that and all this and all that. And my answer to all that is, you're absolutely right. You are absolutely correct. I am not authentic to traditional country blues. How can I be? I was born in 1978 in an upper middle class family in Minnesota. I have no one in my family that shares this musical background whatsoever. Nobody even directly, indirectly, no one even in a 1,000-mile radius is even associated with this style of music that I could even claim some sort of authenticity towards. And I'm not playing it because I think I'm authentic while doing it. I'm playing it because I absolutely love it, and it drives me with great passion, and I hear it and I want to do it, and I love doing it, and it makes me happy to do it. And to me, it was such a gift that I got access to it, and I dove head in and I learned it as best I could. And to me, it makes sense as a way of playing the guitar. And to me, it's a way that allows me to play any other style of music that I want to play. And I'm forever grateful to country blues. So no, I'm not authentic. And I will argue that, if we're talking about authentic to what? Authentic to 1920s, Deep South, then nobody's authentic. You can't be. It's 2022. We're in the internet age. There's no way you're authentic. If your standard is that. If your standard is understanding the forms, if your standard is knowing how to play some of the songs, if your standard is loving the music, you can be authentic. But if your standard is you have to be from that area of that time or connected to it somehow, then we're all disqualified. Because they were working on references and they were working in a time and a circumstance and situation that we do not find ourselves in. Listen to some of the stories of how these early guys got a guitar. I mean, what they had to do to put a wire on a piece of wood to make a sound is amazing, that they even had a guitar in the first place. The fact that some of them had 6 strings on a piece of wood was a miracle. Nowadays, you have access to a guitar. I don't care where. You can go to Goodwill and you can buy a guitar for $5 and it'll play. It'll have strings on it. You can tune it up and you can play. You can go to Walmart and buy a plastic ukulele, guitar, whatever you want. And yeah, you know what? It'll play. It'll work. Well, back then, that wasn't an option. To be able to scrape up enough money to have a guitar that was functioning and able to play was not an easy feat. So, just by those parameters, you are not authentic. Do you have to struggle to find strings? Do your strings work? What strings did they play? Well, we don't know. Who knows what kind of crazy things they had to do to get strings, or what strings they used, or how long they used the strings. Do you get to change your strings whenever you kind of want to? You're not authentic then, if the parameter is you have to be like it was in the 1920s. So whatever your parameters are sort of dictates whether or not you are authentic or not. And to me, playing note for note or in the style of doesn't make you more or less authentic. And I will end with this last thought, because the argument tends to be, again, that these guys didn't play the same thing twice, so it doesn't matter what you play then. And my argument against that is that that is not true, because even though they did alter what they played, of course they did, everybody does. If you go into a club and the environment is negative and they're not happy to see you there, and they're like, oh, the band's here, and nobody shows up, you are going to play differently than if the place is packed and there's an attractive person in the audience that you're trying to impress. Those are two different performances. Same is true for back then. Their performances changed. They played different types of music depending on the engagement that they were playing. They didn't just play blues. That doesn't give you a pass to play this music any old kind of way that you want to, though. Because take a listen to Mississippi John Hurt, who recorded Candyman Blues in 1928 and then recorded it again in the 1960s. Yes, that song aged with him. However, he's still playing the same thing. It's still the same song. The chord progression is exactly the same. It's just when he was younger, it was faster and he was young. And when he was older, it was a little bit slower because he was older. All of those guys did that. I mean, look at Bukka White, doing Aberdeen, Mississippi Blues. He was pretty much playing it the same way in the 60s as he was in the 40s. Son House doing Death Letter Blues. That was My Black Mama when he recorded in the 1930s. If they created a song that was an arrangement, that song sort of existed as that song, even though they may have done different things with it in different settings. But again, that does not give you a free pass to just play any old thing and call it a song. So this is kind of in the weeds here about playing note for note or playing in the style of, because again, I land in the middle. I'm the middle guy. I do at times do things note for note in a teaching capacity, but then when I go perform, I'm more in the style of, meaning that I'm trying to play it so you know that this is how the song goes, but then I'm going to alter it in certain ways based on my mood and the setting that I'm in. One thing I love to do is take a song and start it out one way as the original version. Let's say I'm playing a Robert Johnson song, right? I'm going to play the first few measures or the first couple verses as a song goes. And then I would go, man, I wonder if Son House played this song, what would he do? Then I'll add some of that in. Or I'll go, man, if Muddy Waters was playing this song, what would he do? Or Elmer James or Howlin' Wolf or Charley Patton. And I'll start grabbing those little ideas and I'll start putting them in the song. And it's broadening the song in a different way, but it's staying true to the tradition of what was around it as far as these other players are concerned. And then I wrap it up by bringing it back to the original version again. So those are my thoughts on the two camps. I'm curious to know what you think about all this, whether or not you care one way or the other. Leave it in the comments. And till next time, take care.